You know,
So who's gonna sign off? I mean, I'm a little confused here. Usually, not this town, but most towns, we don't go to a plumber if we're putting in a sprinkler system, because the water department works with us doing it. We don't, I never pull a permit for doing that. A plumber, in this case here, you want a plumber's permit to put that sprinkler system pipe in? Or is the water department gonna oversee us putting the pipe in there?
well, I'll do it together. I'll do whatever it takes to get it in
Because
there.
you've done a heck of a good job putting all the pipe up to that 14 feet. Don't stop, go 14 more feet. What's the big deal? You putting a pipe in, the same water pipe.
It's the
Rick's not
code.
gonna-
Code
Rick's
doesn't
not-
allow me to do that.
Who,
The code doesn't allow me to do that. It has to, whoever's doing the sprinkler, I'll explain.
if you, wait a minute now. If you
Okay.
say the sprinkler guy, he'll work with you any way you want, the sprinkler guy. Because he's told me that. He says, matter of fact, he was gonna drill a hole. I said, make it a lot cheaper, 'cause I'm gonna drill 6 holes. And he says, he was gonna be down there. I told him what time to be there, 11 o'clock. Had to call him up and cancel. So he's the guy, the sprinkler guy, but he's not a plumber. Would that make you happy?
It's
The
not
sprinkler-
about me,
no,
Frank.
no, I mean the sprinkler guy.
I had the plumbing inspector there, and he didn't want it, he couldn't do it either. He couldn't okay it to be done either.
He can't do it?
The plumbing
Who
inspector?
can do it?
The plumbing inspector needed a plan to okay the plan to go any further than we are right now. That's where we are.
So it's a plumber's call on the sprinkler line.
Plumbing inspector,
Yeah, Rick.
yeah. That's
He's
where
not
we
gonna-
are.
He's not gonna do the work.
No,
Who is he gonna okay to do the work? Me, you, the sprinkler guy? Who is he gonna okay? In other words, you stuck the pipe in there, I helped you, we put the pipe in, we rod it, and he can look at it. Is he against me or you doing it? Rick?
without a plan, no one does anything right now. That's what I got.
Okay, so you and I cannot stick that pipe through the wall as we speak,
Yeah.
right now.
Right.
That's a bunch of,
Well, what you, I think it's, you gotta
I
get
don't know. I
Rick,
haven't
Plumbing
Yeah,
inspector
Rick
didn't have a
involved.
plan?
No.
You gotta get
Well,
Rick
he said
involved.
that's gotta, he said that,
we wanna get the
Sorry.
job done, that's
Oh,
all.
no doubt.
Doug said it's at the fire marshal's office getting okay for the
Right,
sprinkler
Diana?
system.
Send me an
So I don't know how
email
long
with
it
the
takes to
bond
get
deal
it back from
too.
there.
Well, it sounds like it won't get done this year, then. Not the next one.
Did we get that transformer yet?
I get it.
Is it, Ron, is it still time to
I
do
have a
it
question.
on your end? I mean, you still have time to do it on your end? I mean,
Without a
barring the
plan,
weather?
without
We
a,
can't do it.
without the plan, we can't do anything right now. It has to be stamped by Rick, and Rick needs to be there when we're doing it, so he does
Right,
the
I
inspection.
suppose we could ask the sprinkler guy to give us the page of the plan that shows the pipe going through the building, and show that to Rick and get Rick to say that was okay.
Do you-
Might be able to do
Doug,
that.
do you have Rick's number?
I do. yeah.
Okay. I guess if you call him, maybe there's something he can tell you that, or in a different way, so you'll understand.
Mhm.
So you're saying that the state fire marshal, I was, all the projects I work on, they're interested in the number of sprinkler heads, the size of the pipe, the capability of the, putting the fire out. I'm not so sure the state fire marshal is interested in 14 foot of pipe that's outside. Seriously, is that,
Well, we gotta be able, we have pipe that's outside, and he's gonna be putting pipe together that's inside, and we need to know what each other's doing. I guess, is that a better way to say it?
Well, we're not gonna put us, if we did it. All we're gonna do is put it in there, put a cap on it, and then the sprinkler guy takes care of it. Because you're gonna wanna test your pipe, because you haven't tested that yet, I don't believe.
No.
So we're gonna put a cap, it's gonna be rodded. The rod will be rodded to the cap.
But Frank, that's not me. That's-
If the
okay.
sprinkler guy would agree to do it, does that solve our problem? That's what we're trying to get out of you. Will that?
You keep saying me, right now where we are,
Well,
I've
the
gone
water
as far as I
department. You're the
can.
water department, that's why I'm asking you. Would you be happy if the sprinkler guy was there, put the pipe in, you help him out, and put a cap on it, rod it, and then you can test it? If it blows the end off, then you know we didn't do it right.
I guess where we are right now, it's not my decision. You keep acting like it's me, and it's
Whose
not.
decision? Whose decision?
Plumbing inspector has to have the plans, and he okays them, or stamps them, whatever he does, and then we
I think Rick's
go
gonna get
further.
involved in this.
Right, so I mean, to me,
I
it
don't know what
sounds
else to
like-
tell you.
Yeah, sounds like what we're gonna have to do.
Rick
is
shut
we're
us
gonna have
down,
to get-
Ron didn't shut the job down.
I brought Rick there just so we could go further, not so we could stop.
Should've never told him about it'd be all done.
See, I can't.
I'm just
You know,
saying,
because we would be doing, I knew,
Yeah, she understood, I explained to her what had been going on here lately in the town office. I've been through a treasurer or two and, a new town accountant, so there's been some changes that are out of our control, she understood. But I have emailed her a lot of the basic stuff, the rates, some of the terms and conditions. I'm gonna get her a bunch of photos soon. I've got a couple of informational things about the wind turbines, some informational stuff about the solar thing. I'm working on getting an appliance calculator, a good one that's not gonna crash. A lot of them crash after 5 people use them. I'm trying to find one that won't do that because it'll just kick you out of the site. But once I get all this information to her, it's mostly PDF stuff and pictures. There's not a lot of live applications that are gonna link you to, except for the actual links that will link you. They might link you to NEPA, APA, for the water, maybe AWWA, something like that.
But we've got them on board.
They're on board, yeah.
To do it, yeah,
With
okay.
it, once I get her all the information, she's thinking probably 2 or 3 weeks' time, that thing will be all set. I would say at that point, it'll be set up, and probably you guys and me will take a look at it, take a look through it, see if we like it, is there anything missing? Is there anything that shouldn't be on there? I don't think that'll be the case, but if anything, there'll probably be something missing. If that's the case, I'd just say we send out a stuffer to people in the next light bill and just let them know that we've got a site, once we've maybe used it for a week or 2 and there's no bugs.
And then they can always reply too, after it's up and running
Yeah,
if they want anything extra in it.
yep, we can, it's after we get the initial thing set up, there's a fee structure for setting up. If you have a tab already, they're not gonna nickel and dime you for putting like another thing on the tab. But I think what it is they charge by, like, if you want a new tab. At some point, they just said, okay, well, this is too much information, we're gonna make you a whole new category, so we're gonna make a new tab, so.
Okay.
Just a suggestion, that when you do get it up and running, that you go to ask the town webmaster to put a link, because
Sure.
most communities have that. If they don't, on one, they can end up getting on the other.
Yep.
If, when you put the stuffer into the bill for everybody to see, could you put the revised budget that was supposed to be in the annual report, a copy of that in there, so everybody gets a copy of that on the backside of that stuffer?
We'll put it on the website.
Revised budget,
Or on the website, there you go,
Are you talking about the audit?
annual, yeah.
you're talking about financials, the audited
Right.
financials? Okay. Right now, the board and me and Will Spring are the only people in the entire town that have that information right now. So, Will has it because he's on the advisory committee and he asked me for it, and I did provide it to him. But, that's something we could do, but
It's
I just-
public knowledge, though.
I
right?
understand it's public knowledge, it also just, it came to available to me like, I think the last week in September. So, it's, when we get the website up and running, it's definitely something we can put up there. But you said budget, that just threw me off, did you mean?
Well, in the annual report, 2 years in a row, it was identical.
Right.
The one that should have been in the second time,
Right, yep, that's been fixed also.
but that's the copy I'm looking for people to have, because we weren't able to get that information, and we shouldn't have to go through the Freedom of Information Act to find and get it from you individually. If you're gonna do a stuffer anyway for the website, or if you're gonna have it on the website, that's fine too.
Right, well, Mr. Spring didn't have to go through a Freedom of Information Act,
Okay.
he just asked me, and I
Okay.
provided it for him.
Good. Thank you.
I'd like to acknowledge that also, and thank you publicly for that, but I did have some questions about that. Is that, where there's plans to put the one that was missing in the last year's town warrant in this year's?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, even if I put 2 of them in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get with the people making that book, so that this year, whatever was missing from the FY11 book.
Yeah, I would suggest that.
Right, no, it'll be in, and they'll be labeled correctly, so there's no confusion.
Yeah, if I could ask another question. At one of the earlier meetings, you said that the usage, the overall usage was down in the system, that's why the revenues weren't coming in? Is that, did I understand that correctly?
It's down from years past, we've kind of leveled off from,
Because one of the things I noticed on here is that in both reports, right on the front page, when we reviewed it at the advisory board, there was an increase in the FY10 or the calendar year 10, that you ended up 250,000 more kilowatts. And then the following year, during 11, you had another increase in sales 430,000 kilowatts. So that's, I don't understand that. How can we say that we're down when over 2 years we had an increase of, let's see, 600, almost 700,000 kilowatts?
It's probably because the source for that information, when I do the town report, is the DPU report that's finished. I use what they have for sales figures. I get sales figures internal from my accountant. They don't always line up, and the reason they don't line up is because we read electric meters 36 times a year on different days. National Grid reads our substation meters the first of the day every month religiously, or as close to that as they can, and whatever time they get here, 8 in the morning, 10 in the morning. MWIC then in turn reads our meters every month at midnight, so it's an exact reading. So I have yet to be able to get my sales numbers to line up exactly what the DPU says and what MWIC says and what National Grid says. That's one of the things in the future to eliminate that. We're hoping to, we have to be the ones to start to eliminate that discrepancy, and the way to do that is to have all your meters in town read electronically at the same time at midnight at the end of every month, and some of the meters.
Is there that much discrepancy between what they're reporting?
Yeah, there's a couple 100,000 kilowatt hours, but I mean, if we average 165, 170,000 kilowatt hours a day in sales, you know, you could be off, if you're off by a day or two, that's 350,000
But even if you're off 150,000 kilowatts, that's still 500,000 kilowatts increase in sales in 2 years. I mean, what I'm trying to grab a hold of is the finances here. If you had an increase in sales over the 2 year period, and we really haven't seen a rate reduction, and you're saying that your revenues are down, help me explain, you know, to understand that, as to why you would say that when I see an overall increase here and no decrease in the rate. I'm not sure I understand.
I don't know, I mean, I mean, some of it could be due to, you know, we have a different rate structure for commercial versus residential, so if residential's down, commercial's kilowatt hours is up, however, you know, they could be at a lower rate. You know, that might explain some of the discrepancy, I don't know, but.
Well, I could understand
Yeah.
some, but I mean, there's
Yeah.
an obvious increase here, Greg, overall
Yeah.
between the years, and now we're talking this year here, and the impression I got was that the overall was down, and that doesn't seem to be what the reports are telling me, you know, and especially when we haven't seen a rate reduction, I would assume that there would be some incremental increase in both the sales of kilowatt hours, which would mean finances. There'd be an increase in finances somewhere. That's
Sales they at too, like you were saying, if it's the commercial or residential, as far as the rates coming in.
Well, I understand, but there should be some incremental increase when you have that much increase in the overall increase in kilowatt hours. That's what I'm trying to understand here. And I don't think,
Yeah, well, in 2011, I think it was in May, we did change the rates, changed all the rates, and the objective was a rate reduction, and I think on some of the commercial classes, we did get that. But when you do a rate review or rate study for a certain classification, which in Templeton is 6, like for residential, for instance, you typically base that analysis on a figure, like an average figure, like let's say every house uses 700, I think in Templeton for 2011, the average home was 700 kilowatt hours a month. So I take that number and I take what that bill normally is, and I say, well, you know, my power costs this year a little bit down, transmission costs have levelized, so this is the time to kind of drop the rates where I can. So we drop the transition charge, and then, you know, I take what does it do to that bill? If it drops that bill by the desired 2% or whatever number I was shooting for, then that's what it is. The issue with that is if you start to use more than 700 kilowatt hours, your rate is going to go down. You know, almost you know, linearly. If you use less than that, your rate is going to go up. So I was optimizing a 700 kilowatt hour bill for I think 13.4 cents. But my assumptions in that was that everybody always makes the discount day. That's obviously not a fair assumption. But when I get my sales summary and I look, I noticed that, especially over the past few years, the amount of people taking advantage of the discount has dropped dramatically. It used to be, in 2003, it was like 70, 68, 70%, and now it's like 58%. So that could be, you know, that could be why, explain that discrepancy as well. And there's no discount date for commercial, the other people, so, for the other people, it's just their,
So rate-wise, over 700 kilowatts on the average, the household should actually see a decrease in the actual rate.
yes, yeah.
You can leave the lights on all night there, the
Well, yeah,
Christmas
but-
lights.